Back in 2018, in an interview with Recode, Elon Musk emphasized that making a car company successful is monumentally difficult. Of the many attempts to even start a new car company, all of them have failed. Even during the Great Recession, GM and Chrysler, who already had a strong customer base with thousands of customers, dealers, service centers, and factories that had already been built and paid for, they too went bankrupt. Elon also added that Ford and Tesla barely made it through the last recession and that there's a good chance Ford doesn't make it in the next recession. However, the next recession arrived abruptly just 2 years after Elon's comments, caused by the global pandemic that occurred at the beginning of 2020. This was an extremely brief yet deep recession that some call a micro-depression. Unemployment shot up 10%, with 25 million people losing their jobs and another 8 million leaving the workforce. However, this became the shortest recession in recorded history, with a massive drop followed by a record recovery. A recession is officially defined as 2 consecutive quarters of declining GDP growth. U.S. real GDP, which accounts for inflation, shrank by 5% in the first quarter of 2020 and then by 31% in the second quarter before making a 33% comeback in the third. The COVID recession started in February and only lasted just 2 months until April, but the drop spanned 2 quarters and met the requirements to be officially considered a recession. Now, while Ford didn't go bankrupt as Elon brought up the possibility, their sales did tank, falling over 15% in the US, a drop not seen since 2009's financial crisis. The revenue declined from $155 billion in 2019 to $127 billion in 2020, which is an 18% drop. But in turn, Ford's earnings per share for the year went negative as they lost 32 cents per share. Because Ford and all automakers are high-cost producers, even small changes to revenue can have a much larger impact on their bottom-line earnings, quickly turning it from a profit to a loss. But the brevity of the 2020 recession allowed the company to bounce back, avoiding recurring losses. Back during the financial crisis of 2008, the recession lasted for a year and 6 months, prolonging the declines and bankrupting the remaining automakers save Tesla and Ford. General Motors, for example, required a $50 billion bailout. While Tesla received a $465 million loan, Ford received almost $6 billion. Tesla has repaid their loan back 9 years early with interest and fees, whereas Ford has yet to repay the government. Now, while the economy and the market have seemingly recovered after the 2020 recession, Elon Musk is now predicting that there will be another one perhaps as early as this summer, but no later than 2023. While Elon notes that making macroeconomic predictions is challenging, perhaps the CEO is seeing a faltering in the economy. Typically, recessions are said to be caused by a series of different factors, and some of which are still unknown. However, they appear to stem from a combination of economic, financial, and even psychological reasons. For example, an increase in debt or credit, which may appear on the balance sheets of businesses or even individuals, can collectively boost risk and cause a collapse when that money comes due. Or recently, the combination of low interest rates and the Federal Reserve printing trillions of dollars of excess cash, and in a sense handing out free money, has expanded the supply of money within the economy. This could promote riskier investments and higher asset prices potentially in risky areas. For instance, people could have made interest rate sensitive business decisions that may work out when interest rates are low, but no longer make sense when they're high. This even includes the purchase of new homes at extremely high prices, but with low rates that could become a financial burden if rates, especially those that are variable, increase quickly. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell has hinted that multiple rate hikes may occur this year in 2022 in order to curb inflation. The Fed has a history of raising rates too quickly or too soon, slamming the brakes on the economy and throwing it into recession. With regards to inflation, many commodity prices continue to increase. The price of oil, which actually went negative during the pandemic, has roared back above the $85 range. This adds more transportation costs to individuals and businesses, and even into raw materials such as plastics. The prices of copper, lumber, steel, nickel, and hundreds of different commodities have been kicked around, generally increasing drastically from their 2020 lows and even above their pre-pandemic levels. Many of these metals are meaningful components of automotive costs of goods sold. This is why we've also seen increases in the prices of new vehicles. The pandemic has also thrown the economy into shock, and we continue to see supply chain and labor shortages, which may mean that businesses can't produce enough of the products that they plan for. Along with the inflation from commodity prices, businesses could fail if their costs erode their margins. A spiral of doom and gloom, coupled with a continued pandemic environment, can also play a psychological role, causing investors to pull back on spending and investments, further exacerbating market issues that could lead to recession. Now, in the same way that investors flock to safe havens to protect their capital during a recession, it's also important to protect your data, and that's why today's video is sponsored by NordVPN. A VPN, or virtual private network, aims to protect your data by creating a secure tunnel that will hide and encrypt your information no matter where you're browsing the internet from. People spend a lot of money on house insurance to protect their homes, health insurance to protect their families, and car insurance to protect their vehicles. But most of the time, they forget about the security and privacy of their own personal data. And so for an extremely low cost, and even lower with this special deal, get a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month with this huge discount. It's risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. Just go to nordvpn.com/TMIOTesla and use our coupon code TMIOTesla at checkout. Also, one thing I really like about NordVPN is that you can select whichever country you want to browse the internet from. So if you're traveling in another country and you need to access the US version of YouTube, for example, you simply select your country of choice and the VPN will make your computer appear as though it's in that country. NordVPN is the fastest VPN in the market with servers in 60 countries, and therefore they essentially give you access to the global internet and make it a piece of cake to change your IP address. So head on over to nordvpn.com/TMIOTesla and use our special promo code TMIOTesla to get a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month for free. See the link in the description below. Now, a bit counterintuitively, it almost appears that Elon Musk and Tesla might actually want a recession to occur. See, Tesla is anti-fragile, which is a term coined by Nassim Nicholas Taleb as the opposite of fragile. In his book, Anti-Fragile, Things That Gain from Disorder, I'll put a link in the description, he explains that the opposite of something fragile isn't something sturdy or durable. For instance, a glass vase is fragile. If it falls, it breaks into 1,000,000 pieces and it's no longer usable as a vase. Whereas a brick is quite durable, you can throw it on the ground and nothing happens to it. But that's not the opposite of fragile. In the fragile case, the vase was living its best life as a vase, and then it was broken, rendering it useless and no longer valuable or functional. Whereas the brick simply did nothing. The opposite of something fragile, where when you hit it, it breaks and gets worse, is something that when you hit it, it actually gets better. Hence the term anti-fragile. One example may be a culture of bacteria that when attacked with antibiotics, there's a chance that it mutates and becomes antibiotic resistant. Or when you work out your muscles and stress them out, they rebuild themselves and actually get stronger. Now, Tesla has been kicked around throughout its entire history as a company. It's been attacked by short sellers who crushed the share price at a time when Tesla needed to raise cash. Every headline at the time predicted the company's bankruptcy, further exacerbating fear, uncertainty, and doubt, which could have affected the perception of not only investors, but also their car buyer customers and even component suppliers. On a regular day for Tesla, they can only produce a vehicle if every single one of its 10,000 components are available. They're not able to scale if just one component is missing. According to Reddit, Mary Barra, the CEO of General Motors, instructed her staff to use Tesla suppliers years ago, which, if true, could have put even more pressure on Tesla's supply chain. In today's current environment, the auto industry faces a major chip supply shortage, and for EVs, batteries and battery materials have been in short supply for years. Moreover, Tesla isn't even allowed to sell cars directly in many states. This entire time, they've basically been fighting with one hand tied behind their backs, if not both. In 2020, they were blocked from opening up their factory in California and had to sue the government, while other competitors were allowed to operate. As another example, both Tesla and GM have surpassed the 200,000 car threshold in the US to be eligible for EV tax credits, whereas all other automakers currently get up to $7,500 off their vehicles, and Tesla doesn't, yet Tesla outsells all of its electric vehicle peers. Along with many other examples, the company has also not only survived multiple recessions, but has learned from their challenges and failures and actually come out stronger as a result of them. In fact, despite all of these negative occurrences, Tesla's vehicle deliveries have increased every single year over the last 9 years by a compounded 90% plus growth rate. All of these forces failed to kill Tesla and have actually made it extremely resilient. Tesla has almost been forced by external factors to continue to bring much of its manufacturing in-house in order to avoid supply chain disruptions. For instance, there are only a handful of large companies in the world that make car seats, and Tesla is one of them. They make their own motors, powertrains, glass. Soon they'll be making their own unique stainless steel alloy for the upcoming Cybertruck. They're looking to not only make their own batteries, which no other automaker does, but they also want to mine lithium and vertically integrate themselves even further. They also write all of their own software, which has allowed them to do over-the-air software and firmware updates, helping them quickly respond to many types of software issues. In November of last year, they were able to fix a vehicle recall with an over-the-air software update. In 2018, they surprisingly were able to fix the Model 3's braking distance over the air. Almost all other car companies would have complex and expensive recalls and need to schedule dealership appointments and would have trouble coming up with a fix in the first place, especially if it's in one of their suppliers' components. Tesla has structured themselves to have full control over all aspects of their vehicles. A company like Volkswagen, for example, has admitted that they don't even write 90% of the software that goes into their vehicles. The key takeaway here is that over time, Tesla has been upgraded to be extremely nimble and adaptive. With all of these external stresses, whether it's short sellers or haters or competitors trying to destroy Tesla, instead, they've created a monster company. The current chip shortage demonstrates this, since Tesla was able to actually grow sales in 2021 at an astounding 87% clip when the rest of the industry saw massive declines. Tesla now has a strong balance sheet, even stronger product demand, a die-hard customer base, and has become highly anti-fragile. There's been an age-old debate as to whether or not Tesla is a car company or a software company or something else, a determination based heavily on the types of products that Tesla sells. However, Tesla has successfully applied agile and other software methodologies to the world of manufacturing, which is an extremely powerful combination. This makes their vehicle hardware and the production of physical products very much like a software process, and therefore highly scalable and adaptable. As an example, let's look at Netflix, which is very much a software company and has the responsibility of delivering reliable video content to people's homes. You turn on Netflix and it works. But there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and it's said that during peak times, Netflix uses an astounding 15% of all internet traffic, so this isn't a small operation. Now, Netflix is famous for having a software product called Chaos Monkey, which is responsible for randomly terminating instances in production, which is their customer-facing product, to ensure that engineers implement their services to be resilient to failures. So in other words, they purposely cause major random problems, shutting down parts of their customer-facing system to make sure that their engineers built a system that continues to function correctly. Most companies don't try to break their own product, especially while it's being used by live customers. But the reason they do this is to build resiliency and robustness for when something bad actually does happen, they're likely ready for it. And so for Tesla, a recession appears to be a similar test of robustness, so that Tesla can find the weak points of its business and fix them to become even stronger. A broad market recession would likely impact Tesla's peers much more than itself, since the ICE vehicle market is much larger than EVs. US auto sales fell from 16 million to 13 million in 2008 and then to 10 million in 2009, bankrupting many companies along the way, notably General Motors. Innovative companies with products that are in high demand tend to better withstand economic slowdowns, which is why electric vehicles can still grow and exit a recession in their strongest state yet. Now, Tesla has been paying off debt and now has about $8 billion of debt, which is very little given its $1 trillion size. They also have more than enough cash to make payments on it and even pay off the entire amount if they need to. Cash becomes king during a recession. On the other hand, Ford and GM happen to have more debt on their balance sheets than the values of the companies themselves. What's interesting is that their sales have already been hit hard even with no recession. They've been drastically affected by shortages, high material prices, inventory buildups, high oil prices, and 99% of their sales come from gas cars. It doesn't look like they're in any shape to withstand a recession on top of that, where consumer demand tends to pull down sales even further. But perhaps more critical than a recession is something that Tesla co-founder JB Straubel, who now runs a recycling company, Redwood Materials, has said. In a recent interview, he highlights many automakers coming in late to EVs and haven't secured materials and components for batteries. He says securing battery supplies will be quite challenging for the EV industry. JB states that new mining capacity is needed, with CNN citing research that $45 billion for EV mining investments will be required. Now, we've heard Elon Musk say that Tesla is getting into the mining business, and they continue to secure contracts around the globe for battery materials. JB Straubel says that there will be a version 2.0 of the semiconductor shortage, but related to batteries for EVs. And we know that Tesla has started making its 4680 batteries in-house, but almost all other automakers do not make their own batteries, and so they could be greatly affected going forward by continued shortages. And finally, the icing on the cake could be the timing of the launch of Tesla's Cybertruck, which will be targeting pickup trucks, specifically Ford, GM, and Chrysler, which is now Stellantis, the biggest players in the US pickup truck market, which is also the largest in the world. Much of these companies' profits come from these lucrative pickup trucks, and so if Tesla is planning to disrupt the segment at the end of 2022 or early 2023, this will simply add to the pressure facing these companies that rely heavily on the internal combustion engine. While Elon Musk has called out Ford, saying that they may not survive the next recession, he's been wrong once, but given his prediction of an imminent recession coming by 2023 at the latest, he may get a second chance to be right, especially if the perfect storm occurs over the automotive industry. So when do you think the next recession will occur, if any time soon? And will any of the automakers be able to survive the recession or perhaps come out of it even stronger than before? Don't forget to check out our NordVPN sponsor link in the description below. Please hit the like button and subscribe. We would really appreciate that. And a huge shout out to all of our patrons that help to support our channel. Your support helps us to continue to make great content. Thank you guys so much for watching.